Have you ever met someone who walks into a room and doesn't have to say a word, but you feel their presence? They're not loud. They're not flashy. They're not performing. But something about them makes you look twice, makes you respect them, and sometimes even makes you feel a little more calm just by being near them. That is silent attraction. It's not about having the best looks, or the sharpest lines, or the loudest voice in the room. It's about energy. A deep, composed, grounded energy that comes from being aligned with who you are, your values, your boundaries, your calm. We live in a world obsessed with visibility. Everyone's trying to go viral, be noticed, be loud. But the people who leave the deepest impression, they don't try to impress you. They make you feel something without saying much at all. That's the kind of presence this video is about. Because real attractiveness isn't something you force. It's something you cultivate, not by changing yourself, but by becoming more grounded, more self-aware, and more intentional with how you move through the world. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore 11 timeless habits rooted in Stoic wisdom, habits that build a quiet confidence, a calm magnetism, and a presence that makes people respect you without even knowing why. If you've ever wanted to be the kind of person who doesn't have to say much to be remembered, this is for you. Let's begin. Have you ever noticed the difference between someone who walks into a room looking for validation and someone who walks in with nothing to prove? The first one tries they smile wide, talk fast, try to fill the space with their presence. But the second one, they don't need to do anything. They already are. There's no need to impress, no anxiety to be accepted. They don't chase attention. They hold it with stillness, with depth, with something we all feel but rarely name, inner authority. And here's the truth. That quiet power doesn't come from status, followers, or perfect looks. It comes from a mind that doesn't beg to be liked, a heart that no longer depends on outside permission to be at peace. It comes from living in alignment with your truth, whether others applaud or not. That's the first habit of silent attractiveness, authentic independence. Let's get something straight. Independence doesn't mean isolation. It's not about proving you're a lone wolf or pretending you don't care. No, it's about this. You've made peace with yourself. You know your values. You know what matters to you, and you live accordingly without needing a round of applause. You don't orbit other people's approval. You move from your own gravitational pull, and that's rare. Because most people live in reaction mode. They overanalyze every comment. They fear disapproval like it's a threat to their survival. But once you become internally referenced, when your compass points inward instead of toward the crowd, everything changes. You stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Is this true to me?" You stop fearing rejection because you've already accepted yourself. You stop people-pleasing because you know that compromising your truth is too high a price. When you embrace your independence, you realize something powerful. The less you need others to approve of you, the more they respect you anyway. Why? Because independence is magnetic. It says, without needing to say anything, I am enough. Without decoration, without consensus. And people feel that, even if they can't explain it, they feel it in the way you walk, in the way you pause before responding, in the fact that you don't rush to fill the silence because you're not afraid of it. You live in it. You've trained there. But let's not romanticize this. Authentic independence is a discipline. It's earned. And the currency is discomfort. You'll feel the pull to conform. You'll hear the voice that says, "Don't rock the boat." You'll feel the weight of disapproval and still choose your truth. That's what makes it powerful. It's forged in fire. And when you walk through that fire without betraying yourself, you become someone others instinctively look to for leadership. Because you lead yourself. So what does this look like in everyday life? It means saying no when everything in you fears disappointing someone. It means walking away from people who only love you conditionally. It means choosing silence over defending yourself to those who will never understand. It means taking time to sit with your thoughts before asking for advice. It means being okay with missing out when the in thing doesn't align with your principles. It means making peace with solitude, not because you're avoiding connection, but because you no longer fear your own company. And once that happens, once you stop fearing solitude, you stop accepting situations that disturb your peace. That's the paradox. When you don't need others, you're able to connect with them from a place of strength, not need. You no longer relate to people as a way to complete yourself. You relate to share, to give, to stand beside, not beneath. And that's where true connection begins, built on mutual respect, not silent contracts of neediness. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to impress. He wrote to remind himself, "It is in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose." In other words, your peace is portable. It's not found in applause. It's not found in agreement. It's found in your ability to return to yourself again and again, especially when the world gets loud. So build that inner sanctuary, make it strong, make it quiet, and return to it often. Here's a practical way to begin one. Journal. Prompt. Ask yourself, where in my life am I compromising my truth to maintain peace with others? Identify just one place. Then ask, what would alignment look like here? 2. Daily actions. Spend 10-15 minutes alone each day without stimulation. No music, no scrolling, just you and your thoughts. Sit with the silence. Notice what arises. This is how self-trust is born. Not from noise, from listening. San. Alignment. Audit. Before making a decision, pause and ask, am I doing this from fear or from truth? Over time, your nervous system will begin to recalibrate. It will learn. You don't need to betray yourself to be loved. You don't need to chase to be chosen. You simply need to live in integrity and let the right people recognize that light when they see it. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to defend your path. You don't even need to explain yourself. Your life becomes the proof. Your energy becomes the message. Your calm becomes the signal. And you begin to realize the most attractive people aren't the ones trying to be seen. They're the ones who see themselves clearly. So walk with inner authority, not arrogance, not performance, just quiet, knowing. It's the kind of power that doesn't need to shout, because it knows who it is. And that is the beginning of silent attraction. There's a kind of presence that enters a room without making a sound, yet every head turns. Not because they were loud, not because they were flashy, but because there was something about the way they moved, the way they stood, the way they occupied space that made silence feel heavy. That is Stoic elegance. And it has nothing to do with luxury, fashion, or perfection. It has everything to do with how you carry your energy. We live in a world addicted to noise, to reaction, to stimulation. People rush to fill silences, to perform, to overcompensate. But elegance, real elegance, moves in the opposite direction. It's restraint under pressure. It's calm under fire. It's the ability to hold your composure while everyone else loses theirs. Not as a performance, but as a principle. Because here's the truth. The most powerful person in the room isn't the one who speaks the most. It's the one who doesn't need to speak, to be felt. Let's define it clearly. Stoic elegance is the quiet force of a composed soul. It's the fusion of grace, discipline, and emotional stillness. And it radiates through the small things. How you walk, how you listen, how you pause before responding, how you don't flinch in the face of chaos. It's not about being stiff. It's about being deliberate. Because when you move with intention, people sense something different. They may not know what it is, but they feel it, and they respect it. Let's go deeper. Most people live in reaction mode. Their energy is chaotic, scattered. Their movements are rushed, driven by emotion. Their presence is unpredictable. But someone who has cultivated Stoic elegance, they've slowed down. They've learned to create space before they respond. They've practiced the art of not jumping at every stimulus, and because of that, they move, like silence has weight, like every gesture has meaning, like every glance has gravity. This doesn't happen by accident. It takes training. You have to teach your nervous system. Not every moment demands urgency. Not every opinion requires a reaction. Not every challenge deserves your energy. When you operate from this place, you become unshakable. And that unshakable quality, that's what people call charisma. But it's not showmanship. It's stillness. It's control. It's poise under pressure. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are disturbed by external events, it is not the events themselves that trouble you, but your judgment about them." Stoic elegance lives in that space between stimulus and response, where you choose your posture, where you decide your tone, where you check in with your values before letting your emotions lead. That's power, and it looks like calm. It looks like grace. It looks like someone who knows who they are and doesn't need to prove it. Let's get specific. How do you cultivate this elegance? Start with your body language. Stand tall, but relaxed. Shoulders down. Neck long. Movement smooth, not sharp. When you walk, don't rush. Walk like time bends around you, not like you're chasing it. When you speak, speak slower. Not because you're unsure, but because your words have value. And you know that value isn't in the volume, it's in the weight. Pay attention to your facial expressions. Let your resting face be neutral, not tense. Let your gaze be steady, not intimidating, but not evasive either. When you look someone in the eye, don't blink away nervously. Hold their gaze just long enough to show presence, then look away naturally. You're not there to overpower. You're there to be. Now let's talk about how you hold yourself under emotion. This is the core of Stoic elegance. Most people leak emotion. They wear it on their sleeve, their face, their voice. But you train yourself to stay grounded. It doesn't mean you suppress what you feel. It means you contain it. You alchemize it. You wait for the right moment and the right method to express it, if needed. This is where true elegance shines: in heated moments, in conflict, in failure. When everything in you wants to react, but you don't. You breathe. You observe. You stay composed. Not for show, but because your peace is non-negotiable. Imagine this: someone insults you in front of others. They want a reaction. They expect defensiveness, anger, or embarrassment. But you stay calm. You look at them not with rage, but with restraint. And maybe you don't say a word. That moment, that silence, it cuts deeper than any comeback. Because you just showed everyone that you're not owned by your ego. You're not here to win a moment. You're here to master yourself. That's why elegance is powerful. It's not passive. It's tactical. It tells the room, I don't need to dominate this space because I've already mastered mine. And that kind of presence is unforgettable. Here are 3 practices to cultivate Stoic elegance daily. 1. The stillness drill. Once a day, take 5 minutes to sit or stand in complete stillness. No gestures, no fidgeting, just breathing and presence. This resets your nervous system and trains you to hold tension without releasing it outward. R. Elegance audit. As you go through your day, ask, did I move with intention or reactivity? Did my energy add calm or chaos to the room? This builds awareness, and awareness breeds refinement. San, the calm mirror. When others are chaotic, become their opposite. Be the calmest person in the room, not by suppressing your emotion, but by standing rooted in your self-control. Let your elegance become the mirror that reveals everyone else's noise. And finally, remember this: true elegance is invisible to those who seek entertainment, but unforgettable to those who seek depth. You don't need to be noticed. You need to be remembered. You don't need to dominate the room. You need to ground it. You don't need loudness. You need presence. When you master Stoic elegance, you don't just walk through the world differently. You affect it differently. Because people won't remember every word you said, but they'll remember how calm they felt around you, how safe, how respected, how moved by your silence. And that is the power of moving, like silence has weight. Before you ever say a word, before you even make eye contact, you've already said something. Through your posture, through your energy, and yes, through your scent. It may seem small, subtle, unimportant, but the truth is, what people remember often isn't what you said. It's how they felt. Standing next to you. Let's be honest. We live in a world of noise, bright colors, loud voice, endless distractions. But in the midst of all that, the smallest, quietest signals carry the greatest power. A subtle, refined scent, clean grooming, order in the small details. These things don't scream. They don't beg for attention, but they linger, and people remember them long after you're gone. Here's the shift. Smelling good isn't about seduction. It's not about trying to impress. It's about discipline. It's about how you respect your space and how that care quietly flows into the world around you. Your scent is not just a fragrance. It's a signal. It says, I value myself. I take care of the unseen. I respect the moment I share with others. But let's go deeper. Because sophistication isn't about the product. It's not about the label or the brand or the price tag. It's about the system behind it. True refinement is a reflection of inner order. It's a sign that you tend to the details others overlook. Your scent. That's not just cologne. That's your signature. And your signature tells the world, I'm awake. I'm intentional. I don't cut corners. So what does this actually look like? It's not just spraying a fragrance on your shirt. It's brushing your teeth, not just for freshness, but for presence. It's ironing your shirt not just for appearance, but for discipline. It's choosing a scent that aligns with your energy. Woody, fresh, subtle, not loud, because you don't need your scent to enter the room before you do. You need it to stay in the memory after you've gone. The Stoics believed that external order is a reflection of internal clarity. Seneca once wrote, "Let your outward appearance reflect your inner simplicity and dignity." This applies to how you look, but even more how you smell, how you maintain, how you show up in silence. Here's the deeper truth. When you smell like discipline, people feel the difference. Not because they're consciously registering it, but because order speaks to the subconscious. People don't always know why they feel safer, more drawn, more calm in your presence. But they do, and that's the point. You don't have to explain discipline. You just have to live it. Now let's talk about ritual. Because sophistication isn't rushed. The man who takes 5 minutes in the morning to align himself, brushing with care, grooming with clarity, selecting a scent that enhances, not masks, he's telling the world, I take my day seriously, and I won't show up to it carelessly. That's not vanity, that's reverence. And it's not about perfection. You don't need flawless skin or a luxury lifestyle. You need intention. You need habit. You need a system that says, I'm committed to the details even when no one's watching. That kind of personal integrity, it seeps into everything. Your work, your energy, your relationships. Because if you can show up clean, sharp, and composed, just for yourself, you're showing the world, I'm not waiting for the spotlight to become my best. I already live there. Here's what this sounds like in practice. One scent. One signature, used consistently. A hygiene routine that's not a chore, but a ritual. Clothes that are pressed. Not perfect, just respectful. Nails trimmed. Hair clean. Breath fresh. A space that smells as calm as you want to be perceived. None of this is about show. It's about stewardship. Because if you can't manage the simple space of your own body, how will you ever hold space for anyone else? Let's reframe this. Refinement is not luxury. It's discipline in disguise. It's the quiet voice that says, I don't need chaos in my environment, because there's already clarity in my mind. The man who grooms himself with care, who enters a room clean, centered, and calm. He doesn't need to prove anything. He is something, and people feel it. Now listen closely. This is not about being attractive. This is about being undeniable. Because when every inch of you says, "I show up with intention," you rise above noise. You rise above trends. You rise above superficial charm. You become someone people don't forget. Not because of your outfit, not because of your status, but because of your discipline. The scent of sophistication isn't just about fragrance. It's about leaving a signature of care wherever you go. It says, "I value this moment. I value myself. I value you." And that, my friend, is what makes people lean closer without you having to say a word. Want to implement this? Start small. Choose one scent that aligns with your energy. Apply it intentionally, not excessively. Keep your grooming simple, but consistent. Audit your presence each morning, not with shame, but with structure. And most importantly, don't do it to impress. Do it to align, to mirror the clarity you want to bring to every space you enter. Because the truth is, you don't need words to stand out. You don't need to chase attention. You just need to carry yourself like someone who knows the difference between carelessness and presence. Smell like someone who respects the moment. Move like someone who doesn't need applause. And live like someone who leaves order in their wake. That's sophistication. That's presence. That's silent magnetism distilled. You want to be magnetic, not loud, not impressive, but unforgettable. Then give people something they rarely experience in this world: your full presence. No multitasking, no waiting to reply, no glancing at your phone mid-conversation. Just stillness, just you, fully here. Because here's the truth, people don't remember the words you say. They remember how they felt in your presence. And most people go through life feeling unseen, unheard, overlooked. That's where your power is. Not in charm, not in performance, but in the still, quiet strength of someone who is anchored in the moment, anchored in their breath, anchored in the interaction, not rushing through it, not scanning for better things. There's a kind of peace in that, a kind of emotional generosity that puts people at ease without you needing to say a single word. The Stoics believed deeply in this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," not as a suggestion, as a discipline, as a kind of mental armor, because the present moment is where your power lives. Not in rehearsing what you'll say next, not in regretting what just happened, but in this breath, this sentence, this glance. So how do you anchor yourself? You start by noticing where you drift. Do you zone out when others speak? Do your eyes flick to your phone? Do you mentally rehearse what you'll say next instead of truly listening? That's not presence. That's performance. Presence means letting go of control, of being right, of impressing, and replacing it with one silent message: you matter. I'm here. And when you give someone that message, not with words, but with stillness, they feel it in their nervous system. Their shoulders relax. Their guard softens. Because your presence creates safety. Let's get practical. Here's how to embody this. When someone speaks to you, pause. Don't rush to reply. Let their words land. Give space for silence. Make eye contact, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that invites. Uncross your arms. Breathe slow. Be still. And most of all, listen like it matters, because it does. To them, to you, to the energy you carry through the world. Being present doesn't mean saying the right thing. It means being comfortable enough to say nothing at all and still hold the moment with weight. That's presence. It's not performance. It's not perfection. It's attention. And attention is love in its rawest, most human form. You want to build quiet magnetism, then stop trying to be interesting. Start becoming interested. Interested in people, in moments, in nuance. Ask questions, then truly hear the answer. Respond with your body, not just your words. Nod, pause, feel. Let them feel seen, not analyzed. Let them feel heard, not judged. Here's the secret. Presence is rare, so it feels sacred. And in a noisy, distracted, overstimulated world, the one who offers stillness stands out more than the one who shouts, because the calmest person in the room commands the most respect, not because they demanded it, but because they made everyone else feel human. Again, let me say that again. Presence is emotional generosity. It's not flashy. It doesn't need a stage. It simply whispers, I am with you. Right now, nowhere else. And that whisper is louder than anything you could post, text, or rehearse. So what can you do next? Start small. Leave your phone face down during every conversation. When someone speaks, wait 2 seconds before responding. Practice walking into rooms with no agenda, only attention. Let go of needing to win, or prove, or steer the dialogue. Just anchor, breathe, be here. It's harder than it sounds, but more powerful than you think, because when you anchor yourself, you become someone people return to. Not for advice, not for validation, but for presence, for peace. They can't explain it, but they'll feel it. And that feeling, that's how you stay in their memory long after the conversation ends. Some people walk into a room and say everything. Others walk in and say almost nothing. Guess who gets remembered longer? Not the loudest, not the most talkative, but the one you still wonder about hours later, the one whose silence makes you lean in, the one who gives you just enough to stay curious. That's the quiet power of mystery. And no, this isn't about being manipulative. It's about reclaiming your space, your privacy, your story. Because in a world where people overshare for attention, the one who reserves their truth stands out, stays respected, feels untouchable. Here's the first shift. You don't owe anyone full access. Not to your pain, not to your plans, not even to your personality. Let them earn it. Let time earn it. Let discernment decide it. Because when you reveal everything too soon, you give people the illusion that they've figured you out. And when they think they've figured you out, they stop valuing you. They stop listening. They stop wondering. Mystery isn't about being distant. It's about being layered. It's about having a life that unfolds slowly, a mind that isn't easily read, a soul that isn't eager to be dissected. When you live that way, people don't forget you, because they never fully get you. And that's the point. Think of it this way. We value what we can't easily access. We admire what we can't completely predict. So every time you feel tempted to explain yourself, pause. Ask, does this person deserve this part of me yet? If the answer is no, protect it. You're not cold for doing that. You're strategic. You're self-respecting. Boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. They're how you guard your peace and let the right people earn access to your world at your pace. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus wrote, "Be silent, or let your words be worth more than silence." That's not just poetic, it's tactical. It means say less, and let your silence create tension. Let it invite curiosity. Let it speak louder than an over-explained sentence ever could. Because the more they wonder, the more they listen. The more they project meaning, and the more they respect what little you do choose to share. Here's how to bring this to life. Stop explaining your moves. If you're working on something big, let it speak for itself. Withhold just enough. When someone asks, "So, what's your plan?" give a hint, not the whole blueprint. Speak less than you know. You don't need to prove anything. Let them discover it. Slowly, let silence fill the gaps. After a question, pause. Let people lean into the space you create. This isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about embracing that you are more than what can be summarized. Let me be clear, mystery isn't a performance. It's a boundary. It's you saying, "I am not here to entertain. I am not here to be decoded. I am here to live fully and let others witness only what they've earned." And when you live like that, you stop chasing attention. You start attracting it. Privacy becomes your armor. It protects your peace. It amplifies your voice because you only use it when it counts. And in a world that's shouting constantly, restraint becomes revolutionary. It says, "I don't need to be understood to feel valid. I don't need to be praised to stay confident. I don't need the spotlight, because I am the room." Let's ground this in real application. Say less in group settings. Let your silence create gravity. Avoid sharing your plans on social media. Let results do the talking. Keep your personal struggles sacred, not hidden, but sacred. Shared only with the deeply trusted. Choose elegance over exposure. Poise over performance. Because what you hold back often speaks louder than what you put on display. So ask yourself, do people know too much about you too quickly? Are you sharing because it's genuine, or because you feel pressure to be open? Reclaim that. Refine that. Not everything needs to be spoken. Not every story needs a narrator. Let your life have chapters that only the worthy get to read. Let your silence have edges that make people think twice. And let your presence say one thing clearly: you'll never fully figure me out, and that's exactly why you'll never forget me. There's something undeniably grounding about a person who carries depth. Not depth in how loudly they speak, but in how widely they understand. They're not the ones who need to dominate the conversation. They're the ones who make you think differently just by how they listen, how they see, how they ask questions that stay with you long after the moment ends. This is the power of cultural wisdom. It's not about how many countries you've visited or how many books you've read. It's about how deeply you've paid attention to people, to nuance, to what's said and what's left unsaid. In a world where opinions are loud and shallow, depth feels like a breath of fresh air. When you speak, people lean in, not because you're trying to impress them, but because your perspective feels earned, because it's not rooted in ego, it's rooted in observation, and that kind of wisdom is magnetic. Here's what cultural wisdom actually looks like. It's the person who speaks after they've listened, who doesn't interrupt, who isn't just waiting for their turn to talk. It's the person who, when someone disagrees with them, doesn't shut down or fight back, but asks why. Not because they're unsure, but because they're curious, because they value understanding more than dominance, because they know the more you understand people, the less you need to judge them. And in that stillness, you feel it, the power of someone who's been paying attention to life. Cultural wisdom also means you don't live in a bubble. You don't only see through your own lens. You don't confuse your experience with universal truth. You expand. You read stories from voices you disagree with. You have conversations that challenge your assumptions. You sit with discomfort because that's where real awareness grows. And that openness, that willingness to learn instead of perform, is one of the most attractive energies a person can carry. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. But when you cultivate wisdom, you become the most centered. You bring calm into chaos. You bring insight into noise. You bring humility into every interaction. That's what makes people trust you. That's what makes people remember you. That's what makes people feel safe around you, even when you're silent. And this habit is deeply Stoic. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look beneath the surface. Let not the outward appearances mislead you." To be wise, in the Stoic sense, means you don't rush to conclusions. You don't let emotion cloud observation. You sit. You see. You learn. Then you speak. Not with force, but with clarity. So how do you cultivate this kind of presence? First, read beyond your bubble. Not just what affirms you, but what stretches you. History, philosophy, psychology, other cultures, other mindsets. Not to debate, but to understand. Second, ask better questions. When you meet someone new, ask, what shaped your thinking the most? Or, what do you wish more people understood about you? Let people teach you, don't just teach them. Third, observe more than you react. In group conversations, don't jump in to win. Watch. Learn the tone, the energy, the dynamics. Then, when you do speak, your words carry weight. Fourth, speak with humility, not certainty. Share what you've seen, not what others should do. Let your life be the example, not your mouth. Here's the deeper truth. Wisdom doesn't make you rigid. It makes you softly unshakable. You don't get easily offended. You don't need to win every argument. You don't seek superiority because you know we're all still learning. And that makes you incredibly safe to be around. And safety is a powerful form of attraction. Imagine this. You meet someone new. They don't brag. They don't show off. But when they speak, it lands. It opens your mind, not with force, but with ease. That's cultural wisdom. That's presence through insight. That's what makes someone silently magnetic. So ask yourself, am I speaking to be heard or to understand? Do I enter conversations with a closed mind or with the curiosity to see what I've missed? Do I make space for complexity or do I reduce people to caricatures? Because the ones who see people deeply see them. They hold a kind of power that can't be faked. And when you live this way, you become more than attractive. You become anchored. Someone others instinctively trust. Someone they admire, not for your charisma, but for your insight, your openness, your quiet strength. In a world full of opinionated noise, be the one who speaks from awareness. Not loudly, not often, but with truth and respect. And you'll find, the more wisdom you gain, the less you need to shout, because your presence already says everything. Not all power makes noise. Not all strength demands to be seen. Sometimes, the most magnetic presence in the room is the one that makes others feel safe, without needing to say a word. True compassion doesn't perform. It doesn't beg for credit. It simply is gentle, grounded, and intentional. In a world addicted to performance, that kind of quiet warmth stands out like a flame in the cold. Have you ever met someone who didn't interrupt, didn't rush, didn't try to fix you, but simply held space with calm, caring energy? You walk away from that conversation and you realize something powerful happened. You were seen, heard, not judged. You remember them not because they dazzled you, but because you felt whole in their presence. That's the heartbeat of compassion. It's not loud, it's not polished, but it lingers, and it changes people. The Stoics weren't cold. They weren't heartless. They were clear. The stronger you become internally, the gentler you can afford to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others, strict with yourself." That's not weakness. That's sovereignty. Because only someone who doesn't need to dominate can choose to offer kindness freely. But don't confuse this with being soft. Compassion isn't letting people walk over you. It's not self-sacrifice. It's not people-pleasing. It's presence. It's passions. It's power under control. When you show up with kindness, without needing applause, people remember that. They remember the tone in your voice, the softness in your eyes, the space you gave them to breathe. Kindness, real kindness, is magnetic because it's rare. It's not transactional. It's not trying to be impressive. It's simple. It's real. And it gives without agenda. When you become someone who listens deeply, who offers care without trying to fix or impress, you create emotional safety. And emotional safety, that's the most attractive energy on earth. Why? Because people are exhausted. They're judged all day, talked over, dismissed. When they meet someone who actually sees them, who listens with the intent to understand, not reply, they feel something ancient, something we're all wired to crave, connection without performance. The Stoic path isn't about being detached. It's about being disciplined in your care. You don't react to every emotion, but you still feel deeply. You're not swept up in chaos, but you stay open to others' pain. This is the paradox of true strength. The more secure you are, the more compassion you can offer, without losing yourself in the process. Imagine this. Someone lashes out. They're rude, reactive, disrespectful, and instead of matching their energy, you pause. You breathe. You offer a grounded response. You don't let them get away with it, but you also don't become them. You show that your kindness isn't conditional. It's not dependent on their behavior. It's who you are. That's power. That's self-mastery. That's silent attraction. Here's the truth. Compassion doesn't ask, "How can I be impressive?" It asks, "How can I be present?" It doesn't shout, "Look how kind I am." It whispers, "You're safe here." And people remember that whisper long after they've forgotten everything else. To build this kind of energy, don't overthink it. Start small. Pause before you respond. Look someone in the eyes when they speak. Don't rush to fix their feelings. Just be with them. Speak less. Listen more. And above all, don't perform kindness. Live it. Let it become a part of your rhythm, your default, your baseline. Also, be kind to yourself. That's where it begins. Compassion starts with the way you talk to yourself in silence, with the way you forgive yourself for old wounds, with the grace you give to your own growth. Because when you've learned to hold space for yourself, you'll find it much easier to hold space for others. You'll no longer need to prove anything. You'll simply be steady, gentle, strong. Ask yourself, when people are in my presence, do they feel the need to perform, or do they feel free to be? If the answer is the second, you've already built a quiet form of attraction most people will never understand. Because this isn't charm. This isn't charisma. This is character. So here's what you do. Be the person who gives without needing back, who shows up when it's inconvenient, who listens without fixing, who sees without judging, who forgives without keeping score. You'll find that in a world that's constantly trying to appear good, being genuinely kind is the most radical move you can make. In the end, silent attraction isn't about seduction. It's about intention. It's about walking through life with such emotional maturity that people feel better just by being near you. They won't always know why, but they'll remember how they felt around you, calmer, more accepted, more human. And that is your quiet superpower. Let kindness be your gravity. Let compassion be your presence. And let the world wonder how someone so strong can be so gentle. That's what makes you unforgettable. There's a rare kind of person who walks into the room, and somehow the air feels lighter. Not because they're trying to entertain, not because they're the loudest voice in the room, but because they carry something many have forgotten how to access: joy. Unforced, unfiltered, undeniably real. They don't fake smiles. They don't tell jokes for validation. They just are present, light-hearted, and open. And somehow, that feels like oxygen to everyone around them. In a world addicted to tension, where silence is filled with scrolling and conversation is filled with complaint, authentic joy becomes radical. It's not naive. It's not escapist. It's grounded. And it's powerful. Because joy, when it comes from the soul, not the ego, isn't loud or flashy. It's stabilizing. It says, I see the weight of life, but I still choose to carry light. Have you ever noticed The people you remember most aren't just the ones who were wise or impressive. They were the ones who made you feel lighter. The ones who laughed, not to dismiss pain, but to remind you it doesn't have to swallow you whole. Laughter isn't weakness. It's resistance. It's resilience. It's release. Stoicism isn't humorless. It's not a grey philosophy. In fact, the Stoics believed in accepting life's absurdity with calm endurance and, sometimes, a smile. Epictetus said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." So when you reframe life with humor, when you step back and see the irony, the human messiness, you loosen the grip of suffering. You stop clinging. You breathe. And sometimes, you laugh. That laughter, soft, unpretentious, alive, is magnetic. But let's be clear. We're not talking about the kind of laughter that dominates the room, or the kind that masks insecurity. We're talking about the kind that sneaks out of your chest when you feel free, unburdened, fully here. It's not staged. It's not performed. It's not used to win attention. It's offered like a gift without needing anything in return. That kind of laughter heals the people around you without them even realizing it. And here's what's often misunderstood. Laughter and composure don't cancel each other out. In fact, they enhance each other. The person who can hold silence with strength and also laugh with depth is irresistible. They're not just disciplined, they're human. And that blend of grace and lightness feels like balance. It's the opposite of emotional volatility. It's not chaos. It's clarity with soul. So how do you cultivate authentic joy? You don't chase it. You create space for it. You start by not taking yourself so seriously. Laugh when you trip. Smile when the unexpected happens. See the ridiculousness in your own overthinking. Not to belittle your efforts, but to remember that perfection was never the point. You live. You breathe. You allow yourself to enjoy the moment, even when it's imperfect. Especially when it's imperfect. Joy isn't something you perform. It's something you return to. A frequency, a feeling. You find it in small things, a breeze on your skin, a song that hits just right, a shared glance with someone who gets it. These moments, they don't need to be profound. They just need to be noticed. And when you notice them consistently, joy becomes your habit, your rhythm, your presence. Let me ask you, when was the last time you laughed until your body softened? Not out of politeness, but because your soul remembered that it's okay to feel good. You don't need permission. You don't need a perfect mood. You just need to be open to it. Because joy isn't the absence of suffering. It's the refusal to let suffering define you. So next time you walk into a room, don't think, how can I impress? Think, how can I offer lightness? Maybe it's a smile. Maybe it's a warm tone. Maybe it's a story that reminds others they're not alone in their mess. Whatever it is, let it be real. Let it come from that quiet, grounded part of you that knows life is hard and still chooses to laugh. When you radiate authentic joy, people feel it, even if they don't know why. They relax. They breathe easier. They lean in. Because in a culture of performance, being joyfully grounded is rare. And in a culture of burnout, being warm and composed is revolutionary. You don't have to sparkle. You just have to be whole. And joy is what wholeness feels like from the inside out. So let joy guide your energy. Let humor soften your edges, and let others catch their breath in your presence. Because the person who knows how to laugh from the soul without needing to be seen is the person no one forgets. There's something quietly powerful about someone who takes care of themselves, not because it's trendy, not because they want others to notice, but because they've made peace a priority. You can feel it before they say a word. There's calm in their face, order in their routine, clarity in the way they speak, without trying to convince anyone of anything. That's the real glow. Not filtered, not forced, but rooted in discipline. You don't need to post your self-care to prove it. True self-care doesn't scream for validation. It shows up in how you walk into the room, in how you sleep at night, in the way you protect your energy without making it anyone else's problem. And that's the difference between indulgence and self-command. Self-care is structure. It's ritual. It's the quiet promise you keep to yourself when no one else is watching. It's choosing sleep over scrolling, water over more coffee, saying no, not to be cold, but because you're no longer available for self-neglect. Every small act adds up: a morning walk, a moment of stillness, sitting with your thoughts instead of escaping them. These aren't luxuries. They're necessities. They're boundaries that say, I matter. My peace matters. Stoic self-care isn't about pampering. It's about preparing. Preparing your body so it doesn't betray you when life gets hard. Preparing your mind so you don't collapse under pressure. Preparing your emotions so you're not always reacting because you've practiced returning to center. That's what makes you magnetic. You're not always on edge. You have an edge because you take care of your foundation. And here's what most people forget. You teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you cancel on yourself, they'll cancel on you. If you say yes to everything, they'll stop asking what you really need. But if you carry yourself like your time, your mind, your body is sacred, you'll draw in people who rise to that standard. No need to explain it. They'll feel it. Let's get brutally honest. Most of us don't lack time. We lack systems. We're overextended because we haven't decided what's non-negotiable. So here's a reframe. Self-care isn't just a habit. It's a form of power maintenance, like a sharp blade kept in a sheath. You don't need to flash it, but you know it's ready. You're not falling apart because you made it a daily practice to hold yourself together, with breath, with discipline, with order. And yes, some days it won't be pretty. You'll break promises to yourself. You'll feel off. But self-care isn't about being perfect. It's about returning to your morning rhythm, returning to your workout, returning to journaling, returning to boundaries, even after you let one slip, because the quietest kind of confidence is knowing you can recenter yourself without making a scene. So start small. Maybe it's 20 minutes a day just for you. Maybe it's better food or earlier nights. Maybe it's finally deleting that app that's eating your mind. Whatever it is, choose it without needing anyone else to validate it. This is your life, your peace, your nervous system, and they're worth protecting. Because in the end, what you do when no one's clapping will determine how you show up when everyone's watching. You don't have to prove your self-worth to anyone. Just act like someone who already knows it. And when you do, You'll stop explaining your glow because it won't come from attention. It'll come from alignment. And that kind of energy, it doesn't need applause. It commands respect silently. There's a reason why certain people can walk into any room and immediately feel like a steady presence. They don't talk over others. They don't need to dominate, but they shift the energy just by being there. That's not charisma. That's emotional intelligence. And in today's reactive world, it's one of the rarest and most magnetic traits you can have. See, emotionally intelligent people don't chase control. They carry command. They don't get swept away by every mood, comment, or trigger. They observe. They adjust. They respond with intention, not impulse. It's not because they don't feel, it's because they've trained themselves to feel without losing their footing. We often think of emotional intelligence as being nice or soft. It's not. It's sharpness without sharp edges. It's calm precision under pressure. It's knowing how to read a room and choosing not to add fire to the chaos. You know someone like this. When the group is spiraling, they're the one breathing slower. When others gossip, they're silent but aware. When the conversation heats up, they don't react, they redirect. That kind of presence is rare, because most people are performing. Most people are trying to be heard without learning how to listen. But those with true emotional intelligence, they listen twice before speaking once. And when they speak, it lands. Not because it's loud, but because it's earned. EQ isn't weakness. It's inner discipline. It's the ability to recognize your triggers before they own you. Read subtle cues without needing constant affirmation. Adapt without losing yourself. It's not about knowing every answer. It's about knowing yourself enough to stay steady when things get messy. The Stoics mastered this art. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotional intelligence is that power, not just over yourself, but over how you move through tension, shouts, conflict. It's learning to pause instead of react, to breathe instead of break, to hold space instead of steal it. And here's what most people don't realize. In any room, the person with the most emotional self-control is the one quietly holding the most power. Because while everyone else is speaking to be heard, you're listening to understand. While others flex their opinions, you observe patterns. This doesn't mean you stay silent all the time. It means you speak when it matters. Not to win, but to anchor. So, how do you cultivate this? Start by paying attention to your internal thermometer. Notice how your body reacts when someone irritates you. Notice what words spike your tension. Notice the difference between a true insult and just someone else's projection. The more awareness you build, the less control others will have over you, and the more grounded your presence becomes. Second, watch the room. Don't just listen to words. Watch tone. Watch eyes. Watch posture. The person who can read between the lines without making assumptions is the one who holds emotional authority. They don't stir drama. They dissolve it through clarity, presence, and restraint. Final insight. People will always test your composure. They'll push your buttons intentionally or not. But emotional intelligence means you own the panel. They can press all they want, but you decide what lights up, and that Right there is power. Not the kind that needs to dominate, but the kind that can't be shaken. So, the next time you're in a room full of voices, ask yourself, am I reacting or responding? Am I adding chaos or grounding it? Because the most attractive person isn't the loudest. It's the one whose presence calms the temperature. And in a world that burns fast, that kind of inner cool is unforgettable. In a world where promises are casual and follow-through is optional, being the one who shows up silently, steadily, and without needing to be praised is a superpower. You want to be attractive, be reliable, not flashy, not dramatic, just dependable. You don't have to announce your loyalty. You don't have to advertise your integrity. Just keep your word. Do what you said you'd do. Be there, especially when it's inconvenient. Because while most people make noise when they arrive, the ones we trust most are the ones who are still there when the crowd disappears. Think about the last time someone actually followed through. No excuses, no flaking, no second guessing. It felt safe. Right, because consistency builds emotional safety, and emotional safety builds deep, lasting attraction. The most magnetic people don't pull you in with intensity, they earn your trust with stability. Stoic wisdom teaches us, it's not enough to know the right thing. You must live it every day. Not occasionally, not when it's easy, but consistently, especially when it's hard. Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. That's consistency. No declaration. Just demonstration. Here's the truth. Most won't say out loud. Being unpredictable might seem exciting at first, but it becomes exhausting. People don't bond with chaos. They bond with stability. The friend who remembers, the partner who shows up, the teammate who delivers without needing to be asked twice. That's the kind of person people want around, not because they're entertaining, but because they're safe. Consistency is confidence, expressed over time. It's integrity you can feel. It's emotional maturity that doesn't crack under pressure. When others fold, you stay focused. When things get chaotic, you stay centered. When pressure rises, you stay you. And that's rare. So what does reliability actually look like? It's keeping small promises, not just the big ones. It's showing up early, responding when you say you will, following through even when the initial motivation is gone. It's being emotionally consistent too, not shifting based on your mood, not punishing others for your bad day, not disappearing when it's hard. People don't trust words. They trust patterns. So if your actions tell a steady story, you won't have to convince anyone of your worth. They'll feel it. That's the most powerful kind of attraction. The kind that builds without effort, because it's rooted in truth. Here's the final insight. In a world full of chaos, the strongest signal of maturity is predictability. Not in a boring way, but in a grounded way. The kind of predictability that makes people breathe easier around you, because they know you won't overreact. You won't disappear. You won't betray what you said just to feel something new. So ask yourself, when people think of me, do they think I can count on them? If not, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to start small. Be consistent with yourself first. Build your inner trust day by day, and soon enough, others will begin to trust you too. Not because you asked for it, but because you embodied it. Reliability is magnetic, not loud, not shiny, just rare. And that's why it's powerful. In the end, the person they respect most is the one they can count on, no matter what. You don't need to be louder to be heard. You don't need to be flashier to be noticed. You just need to anchor yourself in who you are. The calmest person in the room isn't trying to impress. They're not chasing attention. They've already earned their gravity through presence, not performance. That's the silent kind of power, and it stays long after the noise is gone. Maybe you've been taught that attraction is about being more exciting, more entertaining, more impressive. But the truth, real magnetism, is subtraction. Less performing, less proving, less noise, more clarity, more stillness, more self-command. The habits we explored in this video, they won't make you the loudest person in the room. They'll make you the one everyone looks to when things fall apart. They'll make you the one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't need validation, the one who doesn't need to explain themselves because their presence already speaks volumes. So here's your invitation. Don't try to change everything overnight. Just choose one habit. Start small, stay consistent, and let your silence reshape the room. You don't need to demand attention when you radiate calm. You don't need to chase approval when your life reflects self-respect. True attractiveness isn't something you chase. It's something you build, one disciplined choice at a time. So keep building, keep grounding, and let your quiet confidence speak louder than words ever could. Until next time, stay calm, stay intentional, and keep becoming the strongest version of yourself